All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron and I'm here with Frank Ledbetter, who has been making his rounds. A little chat here before the show, and it sounds like he's just a world traveler, bouncing around all over the United States, doing crazy stuff. And, you know, I'm super privileged to have Frank on the show. Frank, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Max. I couldn't be any better. I'm living the dream, man.
And it sounds like, you know, I follow you on Instagram, and, you know, it's kind of, you know, you're kind of everywhere right now, and you know, it's fantastic to see you doing such cool stuff, man. You having fun?
I have fun every day. I love my job. I never dreamed I'd be able to do what I'm doing and make a living doing it. Make people
Mm-hmm.
smile.
Yeah, well, that's a big win right there. If you can keep a smile on your face, then usually it ends up catching. It's like a virus. You catch it to other people, you know.
Yeah, it's contagious. Yeah.
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 So where are you calling in from, Frank? Where are you?
I'm in Theodore, Alabama, which is outside of Mobile, and most people know where Mobile is. But yeah, it's a little town. It's Mobile County. Down, I'm on the Gulf Coast. Down toward Dolphin Island. Like I said, I'm really close to. I guess there's rivers, and then we have the bay, and then we have the Gulf. So.
So how many people are in your town? You say it's a small town. How small?
I wouldn't even be able to tell you.
Under 1,000, over 1,000.
That's a good question. You threw me one on that one because I've been here. I didn't grow up here. I've been here in this area for probably 15 years, but I don't even know what the population is.
Cool. Well, so where did you grow up? Where were you
In
born?
Mobile, I was in I grew up in Mobile. I couldn't even tell you the population of Mobile. I
I'll
don't
have to
know
Google
a
it.
whole lot, Max. Maybe I'm not curious enough.
So what's there to do in Mobile? You know, you're coming up as a kid. You know, um, what's the normal recreation for a young man in Mobile coming up when you were little?
Yeah, back in the day when I grew up, I mean, it was, we didn't have. There was six of us kids, and then mom and dad, so there was eight of us. We were lived in like a 1,200 square foot house with one bathroom and three bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
People couldn't deal with that nowadays. But that's just was the old school. We didn't have air conditioning. But we got in a new house when I was like 13, and we actually had central heat and air for the first
Ooh,
time. So
that's fancy.
yeah, we got real fancy. But yeah, we grew up. I grew up. We had lots of woods and gullies, and as kids, we never were inside. Nowadays kids playing video games and doing stuff inside. Our parents had to. My mom would wrangle us at night and make us come in. We stayed in the woods. We climbed trees. We built huts. We swam in the creek. That's the things
Mm-hmm.
that we did. Had dirt clod wars at the gully. Threw dirt clods at each other. It was a lot simpler time. It really was. I
So
don't
there's
want to.
six brothers and sisters. Where are you in the list of the
I'm
six?
in the middle. I got the bottom two are twins, and they so Dennis was the oldest, then Martha, then Frankie, then me, then Donnie and Ronnie. And unfortunately, well, there's three left. Dennis was the oldest. He died last Christmas. My sister died last Christmas. He was 77. She was 74. And then I have a sister. another sister who was 71. I'm 69, and then my other brother is 65, 66. So anyway, it's scary getting old. Think about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you do think about it when you're real young. When you're real young, you feel like old is so far away.
Yes.
Like it's
Yeah.
just this thing, it's a speck on the horizon that you're never gonna get there. It's just this thing way down. I'm 46 now, and I'm telling you that speck's a little closer now. I think
Oh
I can
yeah.
make out the shape of that gas station coming up over the ridge there now. So
Yeah. Yeah, you get older, you get to yeah, you start thinking about your mortality for sure. My dad was 82, just before 82, like a month before 82nd birthday, he passed away. My mom passed away at 68, you know, and then like I said, my brother was 77, my sister 74, and then I lost a brother at 50. He was only 52, you know. So you start looking at all these dates, and I guess you think, okay, where's mine? Which one? How long have I got? But you just have to
yeah,
live it one day at a time.
yeah, you
You
never know when they're gonna call your card, right? You never know.
yeah, you got what you get. I always wonder. It's like, why does a person live 5 minutes and a person live 100 years?
Hmm.
And only God knows the answer to that question, not me.
Yeah. Now, when you were growing up in Mobile, you're in a family with six. That makes things a little complicated, but there's a beauty to having a big family, learning to share, learning to love. There's a lot that happens in a bigger family that sometimes smaller families don't think about. There's some real beautiful things there. What was it
Yeah.
like? What was it like going to school for you? Were you worried about your pecking order? Was it tough? Did you do all right in
No,
school?
I hated school, Max. I hated it with a passion. Yeah, never liked school. I wasn't a school person. I just, I don't know. It was kind of weird. My dad was in World War II, so he was old school, and he didn't believe in playing. It was all work and no play. And I never took a book home, never studied. Uh, I, I guess what I learned in school was how to read and write, which got me this far. You got to be able to read and write, but I wasn't interested in school, so I just did whatever it took to get by. If I made a D back then, that was passing, so I was good with that.
Hmm.
So when I got out of school, I was like, and then the reality of like, oh my God, I'm out of school. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? That was a shock to the system. Yeah.
That can be a little tricky for sure.
Oh
With
yeah. I mean, I'm like,
with all
wow.
those brothers and sisters, who there must have been someone that liked school. There was probably the one that was good at school.
It's weird. My oldest brother, Dennis, he struggled with school. And then later on in life, he got a job, and then he needed to. Uh, uh, they actually gave him this job, this position, and they mixed his service record up with college, and so they gave him this job, and then they realized he didn't have a college degree. It was kind of weird, but and he went to night school, man. That dude, he really, I was really proud of him. He
Hmm.
went and he got his college degree, and he did really well. My sister, she became a nurse at 50. She went
Awesome.
to school at 50 years old. So yeah, that was my dad was real methodical, and uh, he went to after World War II. He went to school and learned sheet metal layout. So he was a metal guy. He wasn't an artist, but he was a metal guy. But for me, I just like I said, it just wasn't my thing. So when I graduated, they were drafting for Vietnam, and so I went over to a buddy of mine's house one morning on Saturday morning, and we started talking about, you know, going to war. We was dumb,
Hmm.
18-year-old just out of high school. Went down to the downtown to the recruiter's office, Marine Corps, and joined the Marine Corps on Saturday morning and left Sunday. Went back and told our parents we just joined the Marine Corps. So then I did my stint in the Marine Corps, and then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was kind of right back where I was when I graduated from high school
How
and
did
had
you
a,
like how did you like your time in the service? How long were you in there for?
you could, when they were drafting, you could actually, they draft you for 2 years.
Hmm.
So you could actually join for 2 years, So I joined up and I served 2 years. And of course, you got 4 years, after that of inactive. But yeah, that's all I did. That was
Hmm.
enough for me. I'm like, I'm done. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. It was when I did the podcast with Jason. He he's an ex-marine, and
Hmm.
so we talked about you know some of our little marine stories, but in
You know,
Paris
that's
Island, you know.
that's an interesting thing for Canadians, right? Because not that many Canadians serve, or it's something that you do, but Canada's not involved in wars at all. We're a peacekeeping country, so when we get sent out, it's to try to support other people, or so, other countries ask us to come give them a hand, and we go do that. But in the United States, I always find a lot of people serve, even if it's only for a couple years. It seems
Yeah,
quite common, and that's an interesting thing for Canadians to hear.
yeah. Well, for me, my oldest brother Dennis, he was in the Marine Corps. Like I said, my dad was World War II. Dennis was in the Marine Corps, and then I was in the Marine Corps. Then my two younger brothers did the serve, and there's a lot of difference between us. I mean,
Hmm.
they I just think that's an experience. Personally, I think most young men should experience it, even if it's just boot camp. 'Cause it teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
And if you go to Paris Island, you learn a lot at Paris Island. That's a tough place, but I always said if some of these kids just go to Paris Island for 3 months and go to boot camp, they'd probably look at life a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
So now you're rolling back into your hometown now, 2 years older, 20. You're coming up on your 20s, your late teens, and like you said, you were right back where you started.
yeah.
What were you thinking about for work, or do you have a girlfriend? You have something going on? What's
No, I
happening?
didn't. I didn't. No, I came home and like I said, I was kind of right back where I was. I'm like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I of course I had a 4-year college degree paid for, by the military if I wanted to go. But there again, I didn't like school, so I wasn't going to do that. So I just kind of jobbed around, got a job here and there, and then I landed a job at a paper mill as a sheet metal mechanic, and it was a really really good job. But I just couldn't see myself working for somebody, for the rest of my life. So I saved up like $4,000 and I started my own company, and I did that for 25 years, and
So, what is a sheet metal mechanic? Tell me about that. What's that job entail that you were doing?
it's just forming sheet metal into, you can do duct work, you do all kind of different things, like in a paper mill. You build guards for machinery, and, you do duct work and things like that. It's all thin, mostly galvanized materials.
Hmm.
We did aluminum too, but that's what a sheet metal guy does. Back in the day before computers, my dad, he learned sheet metal layout. It was all done by hand,
Hmm.
triangulation, and now it's all done on a computer. The sheet metal layout man is, obsolete like the dinosaur.
Yeah, it's still a
Few,
good thing to learn though, man. Like when I took my fabricator ticket, I had to learn how to do all that duct work and transitions, and
yeah,
man, it takes a
yeah,
special skill
to lay it
to
out. Yeah,
to lay it out and to nail it. If you're going from square to round or round to square,
right,
or that square to round, but at a 45-degree angle. Ooh,
right.
boy, that gets tricky.
It gets tricky, yeah, yeah. That triangulation is tricky, but once you get it, But like I said, now with a computer, man, it just does it for you. So yeah, that I started, like I said, I started my company and did that, like I said, for 25 years, and then we, my wife and I, we're fixing to celebrate our 43rd anniversary next month. So we've been
43 years. Wow.
43 years. Yeah. Yeah.
How the heck does she put up with you for that long?
I don't know. You know, she must be a saint to put up with me for that long. But yeah,
So
it
when you
takes
started up your
work.
company, what was that like? I mean, that's never easy starting a company. You know, what would you just pick up and buy a truck and some tools and say, "Hey, look, my name's Frank the company now," or you know what? How does that work? How did that work
Well,
out for
I
you?
named the company Ledco,
Okay.
which is short for Ledbetter, Ledbetter
Mm-hmm.
Company. So it was Ledco, and I kind of started. My dad had a little shop behind his house, and it was kind of ragged. So I tore it down and added to the slab and made it a little bit bigger, and that's kind of where I started,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of started doing it on the side for a little while, and I was still at the paper mill. And then I don't know. I said, I'm gonna go for it. So I quit the paper mill and just went full time. And just did little odds. I bought me an iron worker. You know what an iron worker is? Punch holes and
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought an iron worker. That was, and back then, everybody didn't have them, So I punched a lot
Yeah.
of holes for people, like, just
Mm-hmm.
punch plates and do stuff like that. So I just did that, and then I bought a piece of property. I bought a few acres, and I was living in a house trailer at the time, and I moved my house trailer over there to the property. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I was at the dad's, beside dad's, I built a building. I did the structural part of my building. I made it. It was a 50 by 80, 25 feet tall, because I wanted to have a bridge crane eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So I built that building, and then I built it over by my, on my property. And once I got that building put up, I kind of never looked back. I
Yeah.
had this building, and I had a little monorail coming in the building with a chain fall. And that's how I picked stuff up. And I was dreaming of bridge cranes.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy came by that worked at shipyard. He was a big wig at the Bender Shipbuilding, which was in Mobile, and they were going to do a dry dock, build a new dry dock. And he asked me if I was interested in, bidding on the wing walls, which is all structural. And yeah, so he said, this guy, he went back, and then this guy called me, John Cygnus. He called me and said, hey, uh, come pick these drawings up. Man, it was a bunch of drawings, and it was scary, but
Big job, eh?
I ended up getting the job. They were furnishing all the material, and it was labor only. So I got the job. And as soon as I got the job, I hired a carpenter, and we did made my little office. And I ordered the uh, bridge crane. I ordered the trucks and the hoist, and I built the
Mm-hmm.
bridge myself. And bought a couple welding machines, and just kind of never looked back after that. That kind of really got me going. I got the job, got it done. Went to the bank, said I need this money for 90
Mm-hmm.
days, and they gave it to me. And I guess the rest was history. I was a job shop, did anything, whatever I could find to do, I did.
So in the
And
beginning,
then,
you're really much more of a, like your training was sheet metal, but you got into any type of steel, right? 'Cause especially with an iron worker, you can cut thick meat steel like with that and punch
oh
holes and
yeah,
notch and you can do
yeah.
lots. And now you got a crane, now you got a couple welders. How did you learn how to weld? Did you just get in there and start playing with them, or?
Well, my dad, always had a little shop behind his house,
Hmm.
and so when I was a kid, he was always, doing metal. And so I, I picked up welding probably about 13, 14 years old.
Hmm.
And he had a old Lincoln cracker box, you
Yeah.
know, with the ports, you plug it in to get your,
Hmm.
down. So that's what I learned to weld on. So I've been welding a long time. Never was a welder by trade, you
Yeah.
know, but I could stick two pieces of metal together, and it won't fall apart.
It won't fall down on you.
It won't fall down. But I never wanted to be a welder. I went towards the fitting side, reading the blueprints and
Hmm.
fitting it, and then turn it over to a welder. Of course, when I started my company, I did everything. You
Yeah.
know, it was me and my brother, and then I hired a welder. So that was the three of us, and then when I got out of the business, I had 30 employees. I had I had engineer. So I had kind of grew it, up to that point.
What decided to get out? What was the reasoning when you decided
Well,
to get out? Like it sounded like you started it pretty young, so you're probably by my math somewhere in your late 40s when you decided to get out. You know.
yeah, it was not, it was a, well, my wife and I, we had two children. We had a daughter and a son, and we lost our son in an accident. He was 15. So when Blake died, uh, I I just kind of, that was kind of like for me, I just kind of lost it for a little while. I mean, lost it. I mean, I just wasn't interested in the business anymore, and it's kind of a long story. So I got out of the business, and I was just kind of out there, and that's how I got into art, because I never did art before, and then I just, through this grieving process, I discovered this artistic side that I didn't know I had, and I started building little things. Naturally I could weld, so I could do metal art. So I
Hmm.
built little things, but I didn't know what to do with it. And people were like, "Oh, you need to do art shows," which I knew nothing about. So I got me a trailer and a tent, and I started dragging the trailer around doing art shows. And by doing art shows, people would buy my art, and then people started asking me, "Well, could you do this, or could you do that?" Kind of challenging me, and I would take commissions, and I started doing private commissions, and then I got my first public piece of art. I got, as far as public sculptures, I probably got, between Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, probably got 30 sculptures out there. Big public sculptures. Lord knows how many private pieces I've done for people. But
Yeah.
that's how I made that was the thing that got me the transition from being in the fab business to becoming an artist, which was basically a tragedy, but like I said, art saved me, and so I signed my art, Frank Ledbetter, and then you'll see the BWL on my
Hmm.
signature. That's Blake's initials, Blake Weston Ledbetter. That was his name. So everything I do is kind of in his memory,
Kind of
and
like a team.
yeah, we're kind of like a team.
That's good.
So that's my, that was my transition from the fab business to the art world,
All right.
and
Well, this is a perfect time. We can take a quick break here for the commercials. We'll be back right after the commercials, and then we'll start. We'll look at this new trajectory of Frank. The coming up in mobile and being a hands-on, industrial, worker to an artist, which for some people is very hard to connect. For me, it's very hard to connect. So
yeah.
we'll come back and we'll talk about that. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to the CWB Association podcast. And we're back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and I'm here with Frank Ledbetter talking about his journey through life. And we ended with, the tragedy of your son dying. He was 15 years old, you said. And, the grieving process opened some new doors for you for your career. Now, I've listened to some of your other interviews and read some of your stories in the past, and I've done a little bit of research, but I can't imagine. My kids are 24 and 19 right now, and that's a crazy shock to the system, and I don't think it's something you can even imagine or explain. You know what I mean? Um, how do you even get out of bed, Frank? How does that even work?
Yeah, I'm cautious, when I'm talking to people, about things. Um, I don't push my beliefs on anybody. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm I believe that, you know, just for me, God's got a plan,
Mm-hmm.
if, if there is God, which I do believe there is, and he has a plan, then that was part of his plan, and so I never question it. Like, it goes back to what I said earlier about why does somebody live 5 minutes and somebody live 100 years, and only God can answer that question. So I guess to answer your question on how I made it through it, and my wife and I made it through, it was our faith. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just our faith that you can't change things that happen. You can't undo what's done. You got two options. You either learn to live with it, or you dig a hole and crawl in it, and bury yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I, our faith was strong, and we believed that things happen, for a reason. And you know, we were actually going to when it happened, we were going to this church, and our Sunday school class, we have they would ask for prayer for different people, and stuff like that. And there was a couple that were friends of ours. Their daughter actually babysat for us, and she had moved up to North Alabama and married this guy, and his cousin uh, was dying and needed a heart. So every Sunday they would ask, oh, we need to pray for this little boy. He needs a heart.
Mm-hmm.
He got my son's heart.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. And when that would you talk about crazy, that was crazy. We went through Blake when his accident was like on Wednesday. He fell out of the back of a truck and fractured his skull, and they put him in a drug induced coma, and then his brain swelled, and we had to make a tough decision to let him go.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew we wanted him to be a donor. So we went through all that, and then to find out that this little boy got his heart, I mean, I was like, wow. And then the lady that got his pancreas and kidney, she was dying and she needed both, and she got married a year later after receiving his organs and dedicated a wedding to him. I met her, but I never met Rusty, the little boy. The boy that got his heart was the same age. He was 15.
I was
But
gonna ask you if you ever met that boy. That
no, I
would be a
never
very
met him.
emotional thing.
Yeah, it was emotional to meet the lady that got his pancreas and kidney. But yeah, I never met. His name was Rusty, but he lived. I understand he lived 9 years. With Blake's heart, and he had a daughter. So
He
that
was
never
able to
would have
continue it on. Yeah.
continue on. So that's kind of the you know the I don't know. It's helped. I guess it's defined me in a lot of ways, and like I said, our faith got us through it, and like I said, I don't push my faith on anybody else or my beliefs on anybody else. I'm like, you be you, I be me. Live and let live. I'm not gonna judge. That's what's wrong with the world today. We're all judging each other. Like I'm right and you're wrong. I got the right way, you got the wrong way. My beliefs are right, your beliefs are wrong. It's like, why can't we just accept everybody for who they are? And
Mm-hmm.
and then for me, I'd say, okay, let God be the judge because I'm not gonna judge anybody. But
And this might be a good moment to let people know the importance of being on your donor program, because
right.
that's make sure you let people know that you are a donor, because it's not enough to just put the sticker on your card, or tell there's a legal process there that's important for people to know, because it's a very, very important network.
Oh, it is. I mean, our driver's license, I don't know about you guys, but like if you're a donor, it's on your driver's license,
Hmm.
So it's got a little heart on your driver's license. So yeah, we've always, I mean, we knew the importance of being a donor, and what it could do for other people. But yeah, people just don't think about those kind of things. It's
Hmm.
like, because we're just all wrapped up in our own little world, a lot of times, We need to think about, other people and what we can do. So yeah, that was a big lesson there for us, and like I said, we're going to be donors, my wife and I and my daughter, I
Hmm.
got two grandkids now. My daughter, we got a little grandson. He's 4, and a granddaughter. She's going to be 3 in February. So, they've brought a lot of joy, to our lives.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
man.
so was your son artistic? Was he into art?
he
Like,
was he was
sorry, go
more
ahead.
into
Yeah.
music,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
art.
Mm-hmm.
He really like I don't have a musical bone in my body. I have no rhythm. If you watch me dance, you'd think, oh my God, dude. But or but I don't play an instrument. I know a lot of artists that that do play. I just don't have that. I like music, but I don't have that. I guess I just don't have that part of my brain or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Blake was he was very musically inclined. He um he played the piano. He took piano lessons. He played piano. He took guitar lessons. He played the guitar. And then he got a set of drums and beat the crap out of those things. Man, he loved playing the drums. But so yeah, he was really into music.
Mm-hmm.
And he was his own. He marched to his own drum. He wasn't influenced by others, how other people dressed or how they acted, and he was just on. They say the good die young. But man, he was a cool dude. You know.
Awesome, man. Well, he still is, and he still is through you, right? Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
look at the cool stuff you're doing now, Frank. Man, like it's amazing. And you say you pick up some steel in a shop because you know metal, right? And you start building little things. And this is the disconnect for me because I'm an industrial guy. I worked mines. Like, I mean, I know blueprints. You tell me you need something made, I'll make it. I can fix things. But you tell me to make you some art, and it's like I hit a brick wall. It's like this thing that comes up inside my head where I just don't know where to go with it. How does that? How do you develop that? How did you find that in you? Do you think it was always there and maybe just buried, or is this brand
Yeah,
new?
I think it was a latent ability. That people talk about latent abilities all the time. You think about what brings out those latent abilities in people, and if you look at it, it's usually it doesn't have to be tragedy. It could be just a circumstance, where you are at the like if you were president of the country, and certain things happen, and you had to rise to the occasion or whatever. But yeah, obviously I had this latent ability that I didn't know I had, and
Hmm.
it never would have came out if Blake had lived. There's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be an artist today if he had lived. But that's I didn't get the choice for that, so I'm just thankful that I found something that gave me a reason to carry on. And I don't understand how I do what I do. I mean, it's still a mystery to me. I mean, I look back at things that I've created for people, and in some of the pieces I've done, and I don't know, Max, if I could even do them again. Just if I think about it, I'm like, how did I even do that? And
Yeah.
it's been a really wild ride, I guess you might say, but it's very fulfilling. I get to meet a lot of people. I get to talk to a lot of people, uh, and if they commission me to do something for them, you know, it's really rewarding to do it, and them to be just like beaming. It's like you're actually just creating something that for especially for them, and that's pretty cool. And
You
and
know,
just to create.
when you started your company, you were a one man, then you hired your brother and a welder. By the time you got rid of it, there was 30 people there because the company could grow and do more jobs. But now with you being the artist, you can't hire people to art for you.
Right.
So
Right.
how do you control or manage the amount of work you bring in, or how do you pace yourself, like, because you're popular. You were just on TV. You're on a hit show. Everyone knows your name. At FabTech, you had a following. I was watching people lining up to get your autograph. Like if you're doing amazing things that are getting noticed. So, like, if 1,000 people call you up and say, "I want a commission," how do you work your way through that? How do you pick and choose, or do you just have a wait list 10 years long?
Well, I'm really not there, Max, and but I do stay busy, but yeah,
Hmm.
you have to learn to say no. You have to learn to say, pick and choose.
Hmm.
If I get a lot of requests for things that's really not art, that's maybe close to art, but if it's not art, I'm like, look, I send them. I can tell you where to go. Maybe get a fab shop to do something for you or something, But
Hmm.
um, and if they can't wait, then I can't do it. It's frustrating. That's one of the frustrating things is I got all these things in my head that I want to do, and I know I'm never going to live long enough to do a fraction of them. And then you think about, well, I could hire somebody, but then that would drive me crazy. I'd be babysitting somebody, or
Hmm.
I don't mean that in an ugly way. It's just like, but you're right. I mean, art, there's artists out there that, get fab shops to build their art for them. I don't necessarily. I guess if I couldn't do that, for me,
Yeah.
it wouldn't work for me. The thing about if you buy a piece of art from Frank Ledbetter, you get Frank Ledbetter. You don't get a
Hmm.
fab shop that built it for me. People ask me crazy questions all the time, like, "Oh, do you paint it?" And I'm like, "Dude, I do it all." I don't. I'm not farming out stuff. You
Yeah.
get me. That's what you get. And I like to, and of course that limits you to how much you can do, but I think that adds value to your art, But
Hmm.
I don't know a lot about the art world. I mean, if you think about it, you got this little bubble. I call it this bubble of, the art world is like this bubble, and only certain people are allowed in it, and then everybody else is an outlier. I'm just an
Hmm.
outlier. I'm not in that bubble where, somebody says, but if you were to get in that bubble, or say the right person even said your name, if Oprah Winfrey said Frank Ledbetter, I would be like, I, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're
It'd be,
saying. Yeah.
and that's weird to me, but that's just life. That's the world that
Hmm.
we live in,
Well,
I say,
and
the
then
old
there's
saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, or whatever.
yeah.
But when it comes to art, um, it's amazing to me, coming from the fab business. The fab business there's a lot of people in the fab business, and there's a business model for that business.
Hmm.
Every shop's got a shop rate. Whether it's $30 an hour, $40 an hour, whatever their shop rate is. They mark material up 10, 15%, whatever. That's all they can get out of that
Hmm.
job, because they got 10 other people, breathing down their neck, quoting the same way. And then you move into the art world, and there's no business model. There's nothing. There's nothing to say. People say, well, how do you know what to charge for your art? You can charge whatever you want. You might not sell anything, but there's nothing to say. So what constitutes the amount that you get for your work? And then I see these artists that are in that bubble, and they have that name because for whatever reason, and they
Hmm.
get a ridiculous amount of money for their work, and it's crazy, but it's exciting as an artist
Yeah.
to think,
Yeah.
I guess there's always that possibility. Could I get there? Could I get to,
Well, hell,
I
why
call it,
not?
I call it crazy land. I'm like, I want to be in crazy land and just, throw these numbers out. Like, how much you want for that? Oh, yeah, I'll take 1 million for that, or 500,000, or some crazy number, and somebody give it to me. It's like, wow. So it's a big. I mean, I remember when I was in the fab business. Let's say I did a stainless steel tank, uh, $30,000 tank. Okay, you think about it. I got all these people working on this tank. Stainless steel costs a lot of money, and then
Mm-hmm.
if nobody messes up, I might make 10%. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
one mistake and I don't make anything.
That's right.
And that happens a lot when you're dealing with people. So if I made my 10%, that's $3,000. Got all this big facility, all these people, and I make $3,000. And then I walk in my little studio, throw some pieces together, just art, just pull something out of my head. And people pay me $3,000 for it, and it's crazy to think about, the difference between the two. And I'm like, this is way better than the
Yeah. Well, the
fab
difference
business.
is that there's 10 shops that can bid on that tank, but there's only
Right,
one Frank Ledbetter, right? And so like
right,
there
right.
you really have no competition if it's what they want, right?
Right, right. You have no competition if they want a Frank Ledbetter. That's a fact. But then you have to realize, I look at other art and I'm like, I see these people out there that blow my mind with some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that they do. But on the other hand, if they look at what I do, I might blow their mind.
That's right.
They might be looking at me the same way. But you never can, you can never get to that place where you're thinking you're all that in a bag of chips. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
always somebody better. There's always some cooler stuff out there. You know, it's like you get caught up in, like doing the Netflix thing. When I did the Netflix thing, all that kind of got in my head a little bit. For a while. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and you have to just take two steps back and you say like, okay, where was I before Netflix?
Yeah.
you know
I'm still the
and
same person, you know.
I'm still the same person. I didn't need Netflix, and I don't even know what Netflix is going to bring my way. I wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't for Netflix. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have met Lou or Ivan or
Mm-hmm.
Ray or Leah or Tom, or Seven, if it and then or David or Stephanie or Joe Coy, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so it's opened up a lot of, it's opened up
New
my world
connections. Yeah.
expanded, you know,
Yeah.
and like I said, I get to talk to you, and you ever get down to Alabama, you got to come see me. I
Well,
don't know.
I'm planning a whole bunch of American trips because everyone keeps telling me come visit, and I am a traveler, and
Yeah,
I will make my rounds. I'll get down there sooner or later, my friend. Don't worry.
yeah. I'm like I said, I love, I enjoy people coming, you know, to if you come to my place, you really get a sense of what I do and who I am.
Hmm.
More so than just talking or looking at pictures of what I do. So I enjoy people visiting and seeing what I do.
So I got a question here because I didn't really want to talk much about the Netflix thing because I'm sure that's what everyone's gonna ask you or has been asking you about, and it's probably like done. It's kind of a done thing. But I am curious in terms of your thinking process because I think I got a pretty good gauge of how you like to work things out in your mind. And you got an image and you kind of work it and you let it kind of happen and almost like the art creates itself. And it sounds like kind of you that's your process.
Yeah.
Now when you're sitting on this show and they say here's a bucket of X and a bucket of Y and here's your machine and you got 3 hours, how does that feel or fit with your process? Like it was I feel like okay, if it's an industrial job and they say, okay, you got 3 hours to do this, okay, I'm gonna go hammer it out. But if someone says create, well, I don't know if that's just a light switch you can just flip it on.
Yeah, it was well, number one, you're out of your element, I mean, your
Mm-hmm.
shop is your shop, your equipment is your equipment. You're used to everything, where it is and everything, and you get thrown into that environment, and then you have to do, specific, there's a specific challenge, and it may be something you're not interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was. Uh, just between me and you, it really wasn't my cup of tea,
Yeah, I could see that being
I
really
don't,
difficult, you know.
yeah, I don't know if it was anybody's cup of tea. Some were better suited for it, than others, and for me, I guess they called me,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't reach out to them. I didn't answer a call or anything. I was just working in my studio one day, and Eric Flores called me. It was a number from California, and I get a lot of crazy calls. We all do. Especially with cell phones. And I'm like, "What is this?" And he says, "This Eric Flores." He said, "We're gonna do this show, Netflix show, blah blah blah. Are you interested?" And I saw you on Instagram. I looked at your website, and I'm thinking it's a scam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, then he said, and that's when he said, "Are you interested?" And I'm like, "Well, if this is real, yeah, I'm interested." And he said, "Well, you want to take it to the next step?" And I'm like, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, we need to do an interview." And I'm like, he said, "We need to do a Skype interview." And I'm like, never done a Skype interview before. Anyway, so I had to call my daughter and get her over here. We got the laptop hooked up. And then the next day, Carter Palmer, the lady that interviewed me, she called, we did the Skype interview for about 25 minutes. And she's like, "Oh man, you're perfect. And you want to take it to the next level." And of course, that was, had to do background checks, psychoanalysis, had to talk to a shrink. Yeah, the whole thing, man.
Yeah,
It was quite the vetting process.
just
And
make
then
sure you
went through all of that.
don't go crazy on the show. I shouldn't say the word crazy. It's not a nice word to say, but just make
Yeah,
sure that you don't feel poorly during the process, right?
right. So that was kind of the process. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I waited, and then I got the call that I was a finalist. And then I waited and waited, and I finally got the call that I had made the show. But as far as, like I said, as far as doing the show, it was, people say, "Was it fun?" And I'm like, I don't know if fun's the right word. It was experience of a lifetime. Here I
Mm-hmm.
am, at my age, never dreamed I would, somebody to call me, and they'd fly me to LA, to Hollywood, and be on I guess you could call it a movie set,
Mm-hmm.
cameras everywhere, you're all mic'd up, and you're having to do this stuff, you know, but the first episode was way nerve wracking. I was a nervous wreck.
I can imagine.
Well, we did that Avatar, and then
Mm-hmm.
we got to work on that at home, and then had to put it together, and just like the head of that Avatar, that uh, I put that thing together, Max. Here a couple of times in probably 5 minutes. I got
Yeah,
on that show, and I couldn't put that thing together with those cameras on it. I couldn't put it together. I was like, "What is going on here?" And
yeah.
then I finally got it. I didn't think I was even going to get all that put together. I think all of us were kind of in the same boat. So it was all new to us, but
It's
uh,
like writing a test in school, right? You can study and you think you're ready, and as soon as they put that test in front of you, it's like your head goes blank. You just like, what the heck's going
yeah,
on?
that's exactly what happened. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got comfortable after that, and then, like I said, the challenges were, I don't do kinetic art. All mine is, it's just steel,
Static. Yeah.
art, static. But so I wasn't suited for the kinetic stuff very well. But I kind of held my own. And
Well,
you know,
you talk about the bubble and the bubble being this magical land where all these art people live, and you're the outlier of the bubble. And then there's people like me who are on the other side of the country of the bubble. Like I'm on the moon of the bubble. So for you say you did okay. Well, I mean, you did 60,000 times better than I even thought I could ever do. So, don't sell yourself short. You did pretty damn good.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I was ready to go come home. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm done with this, but yeah, I would have liked to went further, but
Hmm.
you know, it I I was disappointed that I didn't get to do what I do, but I understand that you can't have bunch of artists come on a show and just do your own thing. How do you even
Yeah.
judge that?
Yeah.
So it had to have a format, and maybe the format didn't suit me that well, but it's no reflection on my art. I
No,
mean,
it isn't. No.
you look at my art, I can hold my own, with what I do, but it was a rewarding and still wondering where it's going to take me. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm doing podcasts and interviews and things, and I like I said, I just got back from Las Vegas, went out and hung out with Lou, for a week, and enjoyed. Lou and I are we've become really really good friends. I mean, I'm friends with everybody, on the
Hmm.
show, and we all pretty much stay in touch. But Lou and I probably talk every day, and
Awesome. Yeah.
but he's I did this Trojan horse I just got done with. I don't know if you've seen pictures of
I
it,
did. Yeah.
you
It's pretty
know, and,
big.
and yeah, he helped me with it because he can do that computer stuff, man. I
Hmm.
mean, being in the fab business for 25 years, and I had engineers and we did AutoCAD and we did a lot of computer stuff. So I've always known the power of the computer, and then since I've been an artist, but I never really learned AutoCAD. I'm just not a computer person,
Hmm.
I'm definitely old school. And then when I met Lou and he talked about what he could do, and I was aware of 3D modeling and stuff, and it's just it can take you to the next level. I mean, a lot of people think, well, that's really not art if you do it on a computer, blah blah blah, but it's just another tool, like a welder, like a
Yeah.
welding machine or whatever. uh, and it all depends how you do it. I could see where if it's cookie cutter, well, look at these people doing flat art with CNC, cutting plasma. It's just
Hmm.
flat. They get a graphic designer and design these pieces, and they cut it out flat, and they sell it. But art, what is art? I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a tricky game. It's like,
It is.
it's like, that guy, we all know that person who, when we're young, they buy a bunch of cheap t-shirts and they put a print on it and then they tell them everyone that they're a fashion designer now. And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
just kidding.
Exactly.
And that's, are you actually, or did you just print a bunch of shirts, but
Right.
who am I to say? I didn't do it. They're one step ahead of me. They at least got shirts to sell. I don't, so who am I? And art is, what is art? I don't like, it's very tricky. The few things that I've made for people that they've asked me to make, I look at them and I'm almost embarrassed to hand it over, but then I give it to them and their eyes just light up and they love it and they think it's beautiful. And I look at it and I think of all the things I did wrong, that I
Yeah.
could have done better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like a welder. You talking about welding. There's so
Mm,
many degrees of welding. It's like you got structural welders and pipeline welders and welders that work in nuclear and
mhm.
I mean you can take anything to the next level. And so there's different levels of it. I mean, I couldn't be a pipeline welder or, I don't TIG weld. Uh, I'm a MIG welder. I like MIG welding, but
Mhm.
I do crazy things with welding because I like to experiment, I like to experiment with painting and welding and, getting texture with the welds and my
Mhm.
painting has come a long way. People love, the way I paint some of my stuff, but I enjoy doing it, and I'm
Yeah.
always looking for the next thing, like what's next? I mean, there's like, I kid Lou all the time about the possibilities. The possibilities. They're unlimited. You know, you,
And it's funny. Lou just popped up in my bubble here. He already logged in early for his podcast.
oh, you did tell him.
we're gonna
Yeah,
we're gonna have to
yeah,
badmouth him now.
yeah. Well, just bring him on. We'll all three talk.
Yeah, I was just talking to Jason about maybe setting up some three-way podcasts because so many of the people he interviews, I interview. Sometimes I get them first, sometimes he gets them first, and we're just talking literally this afternoon about maybe we
Yeah,
should start doing some three-way podcasts. That might be fun.
yeah. I think Lou and I, we he posts a lot of stuff when we're together. I don't know if you've ever seen any of it, but
Hmm.
people's like, oh, y'all need to do y'all's own podcast. And I'm like, nah, I want to do art, man. I like doing art. I
Yeah.
leave that up to you and you guys. But yeah, tell him that I said I'm gonna be a tough act to follow. So I already told him that today because I talked to him a while ago when I found out he was going to be behind me.
Awesome.
But but he
Well,
he's a good dude.
yeah,
But
no, I'm excited to interview him. But we got a couple minutes left here, and for the kind of the final question of the show, I'd like to ask for some advice, and I'm going to try to put this in a perspective that's unique to you. You know, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's perhaps in their 40s, 50s, maybe transitioning out of careers, maybe looking to get into art a little bit, and maybe trying to see where their artistic, you know, skills lie? What kind of advice would you give to someone, say, in the later part of their life that's looking to get into art, for them to maybe make the transition more fun or easier? Is there anything you'd tell someone?
that's a good question. I mean, I started, like I said, when I was 52. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely started late. Of course, it was, not the best of circumstances, but I believe in people. People tell me all the time, well, I can't even draw a stick figure. I can't do this. So they're talking about what they can't do, and if you've never tried it, then how do you know what you can do?
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to follow your bliss. You need to whatever your heart's telling you to do. You need to try it. And there's nothing wrong with failing. The thing that's what's wrong is to keep failing and keep trying to do the same thing. If it ain't working, do something different. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of ways. You might. I was surprised that I could do what I do. And so I think that people should go for it and at least try it and see how it works for them. I get this thing with people tell me, "Oh man, I always want to learn how to weld," and and I get what they're saying to me. What they're saying, Max, they're saying, if I could weld, I can do what you do,
Mm.
and I guess I do resent that a little bit.
It's
It's
not
like
that
okay,
easy.
it's not like,
Yeah.
but you have to know how to weld to do what I do. You can't do it
Yeah.
without being able to weld. So I get that part of it, but it doesn't mean. I mean, doesn't mean you can do art. Just because you can weld. It's like
Yeah,
just
no, I'm a prime example of being able to weld and not do art. I mean, at least not yet.
yeah. Well, you might surprise yourself.
Yeah,
And
I
eh,
gotta try harder, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you won't know till you try. Just
Hmm.
put yourself out there and try it. And you let. I mean, I look at my first couple of pieces I did. I'm like, that is stupid, man. That is horrible. Like what the heck was I thinking? You know. But I look back at some of that stuff, Max, and I sold it. People bought it,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering
Hmm.
why now. Why the heck they even bought that crap? But
Careful, they
then
might come looking for a refund.
yeah. So you look at the evolution, and there's an
Hmm.
evolution. There's always you're gonna get better. If you're not getting better, then you're probably not doing. You probably shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Does that make sense? If
Yeah,
you're
it does
not
make
getting
sense.
better,
Yeah,
yeah. If you're getting
yeah,
better, then if you can look back and say, "Wow," or if every day's a new adventure and you're thinking, "Okay, what can I do today?" and then you just keep plugging away. I know you got to go, but I appreciate you, man. I like to talk again sometime.
No, you know what? I'll circle back. I feel like we got lots of untold story here, and I always try to keep my podcast within an hour, and then we'll just have another one later where we'll talk more because
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what your plans are for the future. You know, like you got a lot of future left ahead of you still.
Well, I hope so. I don't. Sometimes I wonder, but yeah, I do.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
don't be looking over your shoulder.
yeah. Jason and you know how long we talked? Two and a
Uh,
half hours.
yeah, he does that. He'll go 3 hours
I mean,
sometimes.
I'm
Yeah,
like, dude. I mean, I wouldn't. I got lost in it, man. I didn't realize that we went that long. When he said, "Yeah, it's been 2.5 hours," I'm like, dude, because I didn't know that was my first podcast ever, so I
yeah,
didn't know what to expect, But I knew
yeah,
this was a 60-minute thing. So,
yeah.
but I've enjoyed chatting with you. And like I said, I'd like to maybe we can reach out, chat a little bit, you know, just on the phone, whatever.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. You got
Yeah,
my
I got your
information
number.
there. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'd love to see what's going on, and I'm sure I'll see you again, man. I'm always around, so I'm sneaky
yeah,
that way.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, if you like I said, you like to travel, you'd love our little area. Be a nice
Awesome.
place to come and hang out for a few days. I
Awesome. Well,
show you
thanks
a
a
good
lot,
time.
Frank. I really appreciate you being on the show, and we'll talk. And for all the people that have been listening and tuning in, thanks. Make sure you share and download these shows, and check out Frank's website. He's got frankledbetter.com. He's on Instagram. He's all over the place, and amazing work that they're doing. So I really appreciate the time you took with me today, Frank.
All right, Max. I appreciate it. Tell Lou I said hello.
I will for sure. You have yourself a great day.
We hope you enjoy the show.
You've been listening to the CWB Association Welding Podcast with Max Ceron. If you enjoyed what you heard today, rate our podcast and visit us at cwbassociation.org to learn more. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like to learn about in the future. Produced by the CWB Group and presented by Max Ceron. This podcast serves to educate and connect the welding community. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.